As you say that the road is short to Expo 2020, it's even shorter to Kazan 2019, and shorter again still to Amsterdam in 2018. A lot of work still to be done. So to help me along the road ahead, I want to call on His Excellency, the Minister for Education, to join me again on the stage for our next discussion, our next panel discussion, along with our other panelists. His Excellency Ong Ye Kung from Singapore, the Minister of Education, Higher Education and Skills. Please, sir. Ludmila Ogodorova from Russia, the Deputy Minister of Sciences and Education. Gaith Faris, Gaith, please, Alan Masalan, the Director of UNESCO for the Regional Bureau in Sciences for Arab States. He's also the UNESCO representative for Egypt, please. Aisha Suleiman Al-Yassi. Aisha? Oh, there. Youth Forum participant. And last but not least, Shirai Gol, who's also a Youth Forum participant and a member of the Champions Trust. He comes all the way from India. Please. And may I point out that if you haven't noticed, aside from all the serious discussion, the biggest talking point was the fashion statement of the world champions. Did you notice those blue sneakers? And they have a little initialing on the side, WorldSkills Champion. You too, if you become WorldSkills, never mind that you may be a bit late in terms of age, but you too could wear those sneakers. And believe me, we've seen people, they get you going fast. Hussein Ibrahim Al-Hamadi, Minister of Education. You set the stage for us 2 days ago, and in fact, you came in before everyone else and sat in with all of the young people as they were preparing this youth declaration. You've also spent time with all of these ministers whose job it is to put this youth declaration into action. Tell us, are you terrified or are you confident that this is going to happen?
Frankly speaking, I'm very positive because the spirit is very high. It's a positive spirit in the meeting. And all the minister, they were very happy with the declaration. They understand the wish of the next generation. And what we are now working with is really how we can implement this declaration in each minister country. And by the way, they have agreed, all the ministers together, to call it Abu Dhabi Youth Declaration to show the contribution of Abu Dhabi in this declaration. But honestly, we have to act and we have to take it seriously because this is listening to the voice of the kids, the youth of this today. They are the leader of the future. So I would like to thank them very much for the effort and the time they have consumed. It's a 3 months of work online, and then 2 days of intensive discussion and debate. They came up with this beautiful summary that summarized to us what we need to succeed in the future.
And if there was one big obstacle, what do you think it is? Is it money? Is it will? Is it general resources? What would you say it is if there was one big thing that still has to be done?
Well, sorry to say that, it's a mindset. There is no other obstacle. It's a mindset. If somebody doesn't have the positive mindset toward it, it will be an obstacle. The money and other, I don't think it's a big obstacle, but I'm sure with the positive dialogue that happened in the minister meeting and the futuristic outlook to the future, and we are all responsible for the next generation. We're going to offer the flag to them to continue, innovate and improve and prosperity, social prosperity and economical development around the world. And we are, end of the day, we live in a small village, not anymore as a big world. You know, we are all connected. Whatever we do here impact the other nation. So we have to really work together as a team, one team, for the better future, in the better world in the future, inshallah.
That's a very, very good point. And in fact, I think it's possibly very similar to the point that the minister from Singapore is going to make, Ong Ye Kung, because you have said that the biggest sector to innovation in the public sector is ourselves. Would you agree with the minister that it has to be a change in mindset if you want to see the kind of both innovation by the public sector, but working with other sectors who are part of this general area of skills development?
There was a slightly different context when I make that speech two weeks ago. We've been Googling. That was because I was speaking in the context of Singapore, that we are a very small market, and very well regulated. So we are quite unlike, say, China or much bigger markets where it's not so well regulated and there's a lot of white space for innovation. And therefore, in Singapore, for us to promote innovation, it has to be very well coordinated rules, regulations, the way we look after industry to make sure that we create that regulated but friendly environment for innovation and experiments to take place. That is our proposition. We cannot pretend that we are a big market where it's not so regulated and there's white space like India, like China. We are not that kind of economy. So when it comes to education and changing mindsets of parents, of societies towards new definitions of successes, I do agree the obstacle is mindset, but it also will be resolved with time. I think in one generation, the concept of success, the definition of success, how education will be run, will be changed drastically.
Just time, or does something have to happen in that time?
Of course, you need constant work in that time. Provided you do constant work, I think time is required. And there's really no shortcut because we need the youngsters to grow up and they'll be leading institutions. They'll be leading ministries. They'll be hiring people. They'll be CEOs. And the way they look at how I hire, the way how I educate will be quite different from the last generation because they grow up with more power than any other generation. The kind of computing power in their hands, which they used to play computer games with sometimes, the kind of information they have access to is unprecedented. But the youth today also live with unprecedented competition because everywhere around the world, youths are equally well empowered. And so this is the kind of environment they grow up with, but no doubt, when they grow up, they will define the world differently. But by then, their challenge is to understand and internalize the wisdom of previous generations whom have learned hard lessons a difficult way. And that's the story of life, right?
We'd like a bit of philosophy from a Minister of Education, and our young people here are listening very closely. But of course, the road ahead is not going to just be about the mindset and the change and taking the wisdom of the past and using the wisdom of the president, but it's going to lead us to Kazan. And let's bring in Russian Ms. Orgodova, because you're going to have to take the baton from Abu Dhabi WorldSkills 2017 and take it with you. What will you be taking from this gathering to Russia for Kazan 2019?
Yes, as we know, the next WorldSkills competition will be in Russian Federation, in Kazan. Kazan is the capital of Tatarstan. Tatarstan is a well-developed republic of Russian Federation. It is a center of a good developing industrial. Kazan is the educational and science center of Russian Federation. About 1 million students from college and universities wait you to Kazan in 2019. And we are ready now. We are in progress with the building of a special new exhibition center for WorldSkills Competition 2019. This center is located close to the airport. It will be very comfortable, very huge, a lot of square kilometer, and will be divided into different zones. And we would like to invite everybody, national team and other participants to Kazan now, and because you visit and show it to each other new friends, new international contacts for the development of TVET system, professional education, and another one.
And through the discussions that you were privileged to take part in the past 2 days with the ministers, discussing the challenges ahead, was there one particular issue that you said, this is really something that we need to focus on looking forward to WorldSkills Kazan?
It is very important for each region to take part in the WorldSkills competition, international competition, national, regional competition, because it's the opportunity to lead TVET system to the highest standards in the Russian, worldwide. It is very important for Russian Federation, and we to do the best that the next World International competition will take place in the highest level.
Yes, and we know, this is just between us, that Russia, of course, will want to be the world champion in a lot of skills, but I know it from the minister that the UAE youth are going to try to be the world champions, but this is off the record, so just not.
Thank you.
Dr. Faris, you are an expert in creating knowledge societies. We've had such a lot of discussion over the past 48 hours about what is a knowledge societies. Can you leave us with some last pearls of wisdom on the road ahead to Amsterdam and Kazan about the best way forward in terms of developing this knowledge society?
Well, thank you very much for this question. Actually, the linkage between the knowledge societies, or the aspired knowledge societies, and TVET is something that we have been trying to establish. And may I just put it in a larger framework, which is the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals that have been endorsed by all nations all over the world. All governments have endorsed that. This agenda has been labeled as the agenda of science and technology. And throughout the last couple of days, we all have been presenting the argument that TVET has to respond, the TVET sector should respond to the emerging, shall I say, skills, emerging needs of the market that are anchored in science and technology and knowledge, which is in the heart of the building of the knowledge society. So if we agree on that, and I guess we did, then TVET can become the leverage that would really help in achieving the establishment of the aspired knowledge economies and societies on one hand, which ultimately should lead us all to achieve the global agenda that we as the human society agreed on, and our governments from all over the world have endorsed. So putting TVET in the center of achieving as the leverage, as the main tool that would enable us to prepare our young men and women for this future, for this huge task of achieving the Sustainable Development Goals, I think will be an achievement. Because once we know that throughout the discussions throughout the last couple of days, there are no concrete answers right now. We did pose the questions. I think the declaration of the youth did say a lot, what they want. Okay, we listened to them. But then the other question remains, what are we going to do about it? And I think the youth, we owe that to the youth, to give them an answer. Now, putting back the TVET in the center, which means that it should be in the center of the planning processes within the governments, within the societies, and this can be reflected, and the hope is to be reflected from planning to budgeting. Because ultimately the budget, as many describe it, is the plan with teeth. That's what is going to be implemented on the ground. So allocating the adequate resources, be it financial and or non-financial, is something that we can encourage and should encourage, and this will lead us, hopefully, to put more emphasis. And then, and as His Excellency said, things will take time. We are talking not only about processes, we are talking also about value systems, approaches, mindsets, which will take time, but we should start. And with the rapid changes, with the rapid advancements happening all over around us, I think we might be a little bit late. So we have to catch up as much as we can with this, in this process.
It's very important to emphasize that. And for those of you who were in the sessions here in Hall A, we heard some really very memorable personal stories about some of the young people. You'll remember, if you were here, Matthias, who came from Germany, and he talked about how he wanted more than anything else to be a cook. But he was always led to believe that somehow being a cook wasn't a good thing, even though that was his lifelong dream, and he was made to feel, and other young people reflected that as well, that they were made to feel that somehow it was second best or the last option. And as you say, putting TVET at the center of the strategy for the Knowledge Society. Now, you said that everyone was a little bit late. How late? I mean, how much more has to be done to speed it up, if you like?
Well, a lot, and now.
Now.
Basically, well, as we all agree, advancements are so rapid. And we're racing with technology. We are racing with ourselves. And so basically, well, to say late, yes, but can we catch up? Definitely we can. Here comes the political will, the societal, supported by the societal will, and above all, the need. We simply have to do it. We don't have much choices.
So would you suggest that everyone should wear those world champion sneakers? That would help them to race a bit faster?
Yeah.
Yes. Let us turn to Aisha, who I have to say at 17 years old is one of the youngest participants at WorldSkills 2017 in Abu Dhabi, but by no means the least talented. I know when you grow up a little bit more, you'd like to be a diplomat, but even at the age of 17, she's already an inventor. And some of you may know, she invented what's called a camel collar, which is a collar around the neck, very useful in a place like Abu Dhabi. It helps to track the camels so that they avoid accidents at night. You can track them in the desert. I was even thinking you could refashion that and have a moose collar for my country, Canada, because the moose also get lost on the roads in Canada, and there's many accidents there. Naija, you've been sitting you've been watching and listening carefully. What for you is the most important thing to focus on now?
All right. First of all, thank you for having me, as it is a pleasure of mine to be surrounded by your excellencies at this platform. And thank you for mentioning the smart camel collar, which was an invention that I invented at the age of 15. The smart camel collar is a device that tracks the location of animals. Not only camels, it could be used for any other animal. I chose camels because they are common here in the UAE, and many accidents are involved with camels, and many souls are being lost each and every day, which is a serious problem that we face here in the UAE. During the past days, I was honored to be the leader of Group 11, which is part of the think tank Global Citizenship, which is sponsored by Expo 2020. Thank you, Your Excellency Reem Al-Hashimi. And we discussed about global citizenship in general. What people do not know about global citizenship, it is not about having a passport that says that you're a global citizen, because it doesn't exist apparently. Or it's not even about speaking as much languages as you can. It's about having feelings. It's about having a heart that cares. It's about feeling the hunger of children of Africa, or feeling the fear of people who are stuck in the civil wars. So, as Mr. Faris mentioned, we should listen and do. We shouldn't just listen and sit aside doing nothing. So, we can also be global citizens by achieving the SDGs, which were set by the United Nations, which would really be great for us.
And Aisha, being part of WorldSkills, not just sitting in on this conference, but taking part in the other events and meeting young people from around the world, both young and old, did it make you feel more like a global citizen?
Yes, it did. It did, because we all shared the same ideas. We all wanted to change something in the world. We all wanted to make a change, which really amazed me that many people from all over the world thought the same things that I've already thought about.
Was there ever a moment when you met someone from another country and you thought, I don't think like that?
It happened.
We'll let you keep that your secret. We're going to bring in, last but not least, Shiragul, who's a web designer all the way at the other end, who's come all the way from India. He's a Youth Forum participant, and he's also, of course, a member of the World Champions Trust. You've also been taking part, and with your very tall demeanor, you can look down and oversee everything. What are you going to take away from this and go back to your web designing in India with?
Well, I just want to say a couple of things that I'm going to take back. And firstly, it's really fascinating and interesting to see the amount of ideas. I think at the Youth Forum, we had 300 different participants, and they came from about 62 different countries. So for the youth from all around the globe, and we were in that one room, we might have had different approaches, but we all had the same vision. We all had the same end goal, and that was fantastic to see. It didn't take us too long. I mean, 3 months and 2 days, physically we've come up with 18 statements in the Youth Declaration. Says a lot about how similar that we are all thinking, that we've been able to collaborate and bring about ideas together. And this is where I think skills across borders is a major thing that we have to take away. You cannot have something that works in one country and you go to another country and suddenly you're not employable anymore. You have to be employable across the globe, and WorldSkills sets a benchmark, helps set a standard with the competition that it holds. And this is one thing that is extremely important in my opinion. And secondly, that we also realized, and that I've personally realized, is it goes alongside an article I was reading a few weeks ago. The article said, an average 15-year-old as of today will have 17 jobs during the course of their life, and it could span over 5 different industries. And to prepare for someone like that, to be able to have an education system, to be able to help someone like that, requires an interdisciplinary skill that will be able to mold a person growing up, to be able to accommodate themselves in all these different roles. And I think it's not just our job, but also our responsibility to be able to create an environment where somebody can learn and grow in that, so to be able to deal with the world of the future.
So you have 17 jobs ahead of you. How far along are you? Have you had one job yet?
Yes, so I've done 4 internships and 1 job, so I don't know if that
4
counts.
internships, I don't know.
And I'm just 22.
Who's an education specialist? You have 4 internships? I think that's a job and a half. So you've done 2 jobs and a half. So who's your mathematician? How many more jobs that you need to have before? And by the time you get to your 17th job, that may have multiplied again. So who can say for sure? Let's just get a sense of what all of you out there are thinking. We started with the minister saying that you thought that changing the mindset was one of the most crucial things. Just by a show of hands, I just want to make sure you're not falling asleep either from this intensive 48 hours of discussions. How many of you agree that changing the mindset is absolutely crucial? Everyone from UAE agrees with you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And Simon Bartley. Very good. And who doesn't agree? Well, you've obviously changed.
Yeah.
You obviously changed their minds. I think we might have just time for 1 or 2 comments or questions from the floor. We want this to be a very open and democratic process. If someone has anything they would like to add to our discussion. Everyone's been stunned into silence. Yeah. Okay, Mariam, okay. You'll have to speak loudly. One second, the microphone's coming to you.
Oh, okay. Thank you all for the amazing discussion. Before asking my question, I just wanted to say that the voice of the youth is something very authentic, and I think we all learned that through this TVET Youth Forum. And I always say that without wheels, a car can't move, and without a voice, change can't be made. So my question is, how would you show to every youth that their voice is important? How would that change their mindset? I think it always starts with the youth. So how is that going to be possible for everyone out there?
That is the best possible question to bring to an end our discussions. And I'm going to leave you to the last minister, Al-Hamadi. Dr. Faris, how would you respond to Mariam's question? What is the best way to make sure that the voices of the youth are heard? It's very easy to say that the voices are going to be heard. It's very easy to take this home. But what we heard from the minister about the channels of communication. So how are you going to make it happen at UNESCO?
Well, I guess the key word here is engagement.
Engagement.
And may I say, effective and meaningful engagement. It's not just engagement for the sake of engagement. The more we engage the youth in our thinking, in our conceptualization of approaches, in the design of our plans, in our decision-making processes and systems and processes, the more we are closer to this goal. The more the youth will feel that they are part of this process, that they will have more ownership of this of the process, whatever we are designing. So engagement, meaningful and and effective one. So this would be, shall I say, the main entry point that I'm suggesting, and together we will find the answers.
Good.
Don't expect us to come with all the answers now, and we know that you are also, the youth are struggling to find the answers. We know the problem. We know the issues. We know, as you said, well, maybe we don't have all the tickets, but we know where the station is, or It was said by one of the young participants. So it's engagement, again, and I think this is the key word. And here we have to find the mechanisms, the real mechanisms.
Exactly.
And to give the opportunity to realize that on the ground. And then we'll have to work together.
Okay, engagement and a mechanism. What about you, Ms. Orgorodova? What would you say? What's your answer? And I think it would be the question of Aisha and Gal as well about how to put this into action. What would you suggest?
I suggest that we should understand now, everybody understands that it is a time when we should change very fast. And it takes from us work together to plan our activities together, not in the line, but to be more effective and more active together. It's the main point I suggest.
Okay, so engagement mechanism, working together. The minister from Singapore is nodding, our philosopher king on the panel. So how are you going to make sure that this becomes a reality and not just a colorful document?
Yeah, I think the voice of the youth in every generation is never uniform. And today we have two outstanding youths on stage. I think for every youth, for every young person who has a very clear idea of what he or she wants, and I want to invent camel collars, and this is my calling in life, you know, and you have such youths, very single-minded, very passionate. You have another youth who, just like the example you said earlier, I really want to be a cook, but I'm really not sure because the society or even my parents is judging me and say that's not good enough, and I'm really unsure. And for every one of that, you probably have another 2 or 3 who say, I have no idea what I want. And I really envy those who has a passion. So it is an uneven voice. For the first group, I think we got to honor them, and really encourage them when they go out, do what they want and achieve something. And I think an event like this really recognize the achievements of all our competitors. They're obviously passionate about the skills that they have. Whether they win a medal or not is to be celebrated for being so clear and so passionate about what they like. For the second group, the unsure group, the system really got to speak up for them and say that it's all right. And that is what I meant by it takes time. Because not everyone will agree, because you are shifting a societal mindset. And that takes time, but you do have to evangelize. You do have to speak up for them and let them have the confidence that I can pursue my passion. As for the third group, I think you need a systemic response, like what Dr. Faris said, that within our system, we have to open up pathways, open up spaces for them to explore what they don't know yet, and hopefully in time, they discover their passion. So I think it's a variegated response. Yeah.
That is an excellent point, because you can sometimes forget, when we meet here in Abu Dhabi, we are seeing the best and the brightest. The cream always rises to the top. And in the past 2 days, there was a lot of discussion about inclusion, about reaching the more vulnerable groups, reaching the less privileged groups, also helping them to build their dreams and to build the success stories. This excellent reminder. Now, since Singapore often is at the cutting edge of so many things, do you have channels now to bring the youth into decision-making in Singapore already? Have you already been thinking about this?
It is a constant process. It requires a lot of hard work, but we are maybe at the cutting edge of things only because we are so small. And everywhere you turn, you hit the coast. And so we always must be at the leading edge and try to run as fast as we can. That's how we make up for our smallness. Yeah.
But sometimes, small is beautiful, and what you can achieve is small and then build it bigger, setting an example.
I agree with you. I think so too.
Yes. And to you, Minister Al-Hamadi, people will remember the first day where we had Sarah, who's sitting with us, who suggested to you that what you really needed was a young, with all due respect, of
Yeah,
course, a young, or let us say younger,
Younger.
Minister of Education, maybe two Ministers of Education. So you had already got a suggestion from Sarah. But listening to what has already been said today and your reflections over the last 2 days, have you thought about better ways to bring the youth into the decision making so that their ideas become realities?
And here in the UAE, really we think in a little bit maybe a different way. We are really engaging the youth. We have a youth minister, but also what we did last year, and this is going to be a continued practice. Each year we have a big conference that lasts a full day. We bring students from the schools, from the university, parents, educator, and we sit up in groups and we do brainstorming and we discuss all the issues. And then we come with a summary and recommendation. And then we put it in a place of action. We just not put it on the side. And we have done a lot of implementation of different ideas that has been implemented this year because of the session we had last year. One of the major things is the kids, they were asking about, as my friend His Excellency has mentioned, you have different kids and they have different desires. There has to be a system in place to capture the active one, the one they are hesitant, and the one who has no clue. You have to put a system in place that talk to them and engage them all the way. And having this platform here, like the WorldSkills in Abu Dhabi, is a big platform that has exposed our kid. And I was pushing my team that I want any student in UAE must come to this
Interesting.
skills competition and has to go around and walk around and get ideas. Our plan is to have 70,000 students coming in. I think we're going to have maybe 90 or 100,000 students coming to this exhibition. The other thing is for the youth, honestly, is you have to enable them. Enabling them by providing them with the right skill and with the multiple skills. As one of the youth said, the job is not guaranteed anymore, and they will have different jobs. We have from elementary to start this concept. He has to have multi-skill. And when he go to the medium, lower high school, upper high school, by finishing high school, he must have, any kid, if you want him to succeed, he must have the minimum skill required, that will enable him social skill, technical and vocational skill, and also academic skill. The three has to come together. We should not focus in one and ignore the others.
That's
So
a
this
very
is a
good
big
point,
challenge
yes.
also. That's the big
But
challenge
it
for
doesn't
educator.
have to be a competition or a contradiction between having a general education as well as a skills-based education. And if I was a point that Aisha hinted at, there was a lot of discussion. We began by talking about social skills, but then the British Council piped up and said, actually, they're not just social skills, there's core skills.
Yes.
Things about being able to communicate, skills of persuasion, negotiation, being flexible, adaptability, those are all very, very important skills.
Correct. I agree.
But picking up on what you said and what some of the other comments, I want to come back to you, Aisha. Of course, you're blessed with the name of one of the, if I can say, even the favorite wife of the Prophet. So that must have given you a head start in life. But what is the secret of your success? In the last 2 days, we heard about the importance of teachers. We heard about the importance of parents, about education. What do you think has helped you be who you are today? Because maybe some others here could learn from your experience.
Sure. So in my case, it started from the home. I have really supportive parents that stood with me in every step that I took. And I had that parents that if I suggested that I would like to be a cook, and they would go do it. And they would support me for anything that I would like to do. And then my teachers. My teachers have really impacted me in my life and in my decisions, which was really great. And also having a Minister of Education that is really down to earth and supportive to the youth, and that is really great to have.
Thank you.
You also have the skill of knowing what to say at the right time,
Yes.
right? Yes. But it's good. That is an important skill. What about you, Terry? What do you think what got you to where you are today? What were the most important influences for you?
I think, as Aisha already mentioned, family support is always very important. And also adding to it, for me, specifically being in the skill of IT and the web design that I do, a lot of it came in from an external influence in my life. So every day we wake up with technology around us, we see things happening. for most of us, the first thing we wake up and do is use our phones and so on and so forth. So this is what drove me towards the passion towards being able to do it and towards being able to make a difference on a local as well as a global scale. So that's what drove me as my passion to achieve what I have.
And when you go back to India and you meet your friends there, just let us in a little bit on your conversation. I'm sure all of us here today, whether it's children or people that we know in our various walks of life, we hear the conversations of young people. And sometimes I have to say, young people seem scared about the future because the job market is so fluid. Some of them are those who want to go to another country for education or for a job are worried about the new barriers to migration. Some are excited by the new possibilities. How would you describe the kind of conversations you have, Chirag, with your friends when you're at home? To give us a sort of a little snapshot of what youth are thinking.
So a lot of us are definitely uncertain about the future. I think that's the word I would like to use, uncertain. We are very sure that we are in an infant stage of what I could call a revolution. Things are going to change in the next 50 years, and we're just starting, we're just scraping through the surface, and we don't know what's going to come. But at the same time, I would say that we are all very confident because we want to go, and it's a future that we are going to live in. So we want to create that future. We want to be a part of the decision-making process. We want to be a part, we want to play a part to be able to have a say, have a voice in that next 50 years that we are going to live in. And so I would say uncertain but yet confident is what we take back.
Aisha, when you meet your friends, I mean, we've met some of your friends. What would you say the prevailing mood is when you sit down in a coffee shop and meet your friends?
Pardon?
What do you think the mood is when you sit down with your friends? What the kind of mood is? Are you worried? Are you confident?
I'm actually really excited about the future, since I believe that the youths are the future and they have the freedom and right to change the future and to shape the future. So I know that we are the ones who are going to make the future, so why to be scared about it?
I think we should give a round of applause to young people, that sort of small snapshot of young people we have. We have just a few minutes left before we draw to go, so I'm going to go to each of our young participants on the panel from the generation that is now in power, to give us just one last thought that we should all take away from what is, after all, the very first conference of its kind. Now, of course, you may say, please don't have any more WorldSkills Conference like this, but we hope that you won't say that. But the last sort of parting thought that you'd like to end these 2 days with, beginning with you, because you're a doctor, Dr. Faris, I'm going to ask you to give your last takeaway that from this, to end this first WorldSkills 2017 conference.
Well, what can I say? Definitely, there is hope, there is obligation on all of us to move and to move fast and to move now. One thing, just building on what I just heard, I think we also adults, regardless where we are in our position, decision makers, etc., we have to start educating ourselves as well.
Very good point.
We have to start educating ourselves. We have to teach ourselves to listen more, and may I say, even learn more from the youth. Because in many cases, they are ahead of us. These small devices have, the computers, the iPhones have opened new venues for them that were not available to my generation. So I think they have been burning stages that took us years. And in many cases, they are ahead of us. I worked with the youth in several, shall I say, occasions. And it's amazing that then you discover, wow, maybe I don't know. And maybe we should do something about it. I'm very hopeful, I'm very optimistic that we can work together. And as I said, it's a joint responsibility. It will take time, but we have to start.
Very, very good point. Thank you. Your Excellency, Mrs. Ogorodova?
As for me, I wonder from the international component of our conference, of our meeting, and from our discussion. For our country, it's very important to be more international because internationalization, any process, lead to the raise the quality to highest quality, to international standard. And using international standard require for us a lot of changing in the area, not only teachers, educations, and infrastructure, equipments, but in a culture consideration between our young persons, between consideration between young students and teachers, and a lot of changing around us in social, in culture. It's very important for us, I suggest.
Very good. Minister Kung, what's going to be at the top of your in tray when you go back to Singapore?
I think don't be overly concerned or afraid with the advent of AIs, robots, and computers. They've been around, but so long as we have purpose and passion in what we are doing, we exercise judgment, we are smart workers, they can't replace us. I look at all our contestants out there. I spend a bit of time looking at the beauty and spa therapists and the work they do. It'll be a long time before a computer or a robot can replace that.
Or even be a Minister of Education. Minister Halmani, the last word to you.
The last thing is I would like to talk to the whole world, honestly. What we have here, we have WorldSkills, and we have seen how many nations participated in the WorldSkills. I would like to say it's a beautiful and golden opportunity to benchmark yourself. So what I want to say, let the whole world join us. Let's be one bigger family. I wish to see all the countries participating in the WorldSkills, because really it's very important. You come here, you learn a lot, you benchmark yourself, and you compare, and you learn, and you take lesson back to your system and improve it. The second thing I would like to say is enable the kid and make it available for them. Some countries, they don't have the luxuries or the capability to develop a strong TVET system. We as minister, we should make open educational platform, making open resources available, because it's our responsibility. What's happening in the other side of the world will impact us. So let's work together to make it available and less expensive for the people to reach to this knowledge and know-how. And we should not keep it. No, we should give it away and learn from each other and develop the ecosystem that everybody is a win-win relationship. And last thing, I would like to emphasize what His Excellency said about AI. AI is coming, technology is coming, we have to take it in. Take it in a positive way. Prepare our kid to, current generation has to learn how to live with it, upskill ourselves, and prepare our kid to really observe more and more use of technology to make the human more productive, more social prosperity, and better economy for the whole world. And thank you very much.
Your Excellency, we will all ride into the future together, and whether we're driving a camel or a driverless car, we will all go in the same direction if we all pull together. Please join me in thanking our excellent panel for all of your insights and your sharing of experiences. Thank you.